Welcome back to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being truly well-informed. Today we're diving into something pretty critical in modern business tech. How do you actually turn a solid technical career into executive leadership? Because the answer seems to be shifting fast.
It really is.
Yeah. I've got a surprising statistic here from our sources to kick us off. Reaching the Chief Information Officer spot, the CIO, it used to be this absolute marathon, like a 30-year climb.
Right, decades.
Exactly. But recent studies we looked at show the average time needed has dropped by almost 50% for today's professionals.
Yeah.
That's huge.
That speed is pretty astonishing, yeah. And it really makes you ask, is the ladder just fundamentally shorter now? Or are there specific degrees, maybe certain skills, intentional career choices acting like career rockets?
Career rockets, I like that.
Yeah, and if you're currently in a technical role, you really need to know how to get yourself onto that fast track.
Precisely. So our deep dive today is all about navigating this accelerated information systems career landscape.
Yeah.
We've pulled together a pretty robust stack of sources. We've got a real-world scenario from a systems analyst kind of wrestling with her next steps. We've got the rigorous academic MSIS 2016 competency framework. And we've got some hard data analysis looking at the career paths of actual top CIOs today.
Okay, so the mission here is basically to chart the best path, right? From that technical starting point, say systems analyst, all the way up through the C-suite, CIO, CTO, maybe even CDO.
Yeah.
We really want to uncover those specific high-leverage skills, those competencies, and the strategic educational choices, especially looking at what something like a Master of Science in Information Systems, an MSIS, delivers that let you, the ambitious professional listening, move from just doing the work to actually setting the strategy and doing it at that executive pace.
Okay, so let's start where many people do, that typical starting point. We're looking at a systems analyst, maybe a few years out of college, working in a really highly regulated field, think pharma or biotech. They actually describe their work environment as extremely locked down and controlled.
Yeah, and that regulation piece, that's absolutely key context. In fields like pharmaceuticals, compliance, controlled change management, these aren't just, procedures on a checklist. They're absolutely critical, existential almost.
Right.
So the analyst's core duties, as laid out in our source material, they're pretty intense. Gathering super precise requirements, managing third-party vendors when putting in new systems, configuring these, often proprietary lab systems, and then generating just tons of documentation.
Like system design specs and validation stuff.
Exactly. System design specifications, validation paperwork, you name it. And doing all of that while keeping everything totally compliant. It's a lot.
And interestingly, while they might know some foundational coding SQL, maybe some C++ pair, Python basics, their main job is configuring and maintaining these specific proprietary software packages.
Right, not building from scratch necessarily.
Yeah. And they also act as a sort of mini coordinator, right? Pulling in database administrators, networking folks when systems need to connect or, when things go wrong. So what's the big strategic takeaway from a role like this, even with proprietary tools?
I think the key is that inherent cross-functionality. This analyst, they're the critical bridge. Even if the software itself is super specialized, the analyst is connecting to very specific business need, maybe a clinical trial protocol or a quality check in manufacturing, to the exact IT setup needed to make it happen.
So they're translating.
They're fluent in both languages, yeah. The scientific process and the technical configuration process. The role is IT execution, sure, but it's fundamentally driven by those business demands.
Okay, but that leads right into the core anxiety our analyst mentioned, right? That fear of getting stuck, worrying that these super specific proprietary skills won't, transfer to the next job. How do you address that feeling of being trapped?
Well, you counter it by reframing their value proposition. Your current value isn't just about knowing that specific software package. Your lasting value, the transferable part, lies in the processes and the governance you execute around that software. Think about what working in a regulated environment really teaches you.
So what are those really high-leverage transferable skills then?
They're all about organizational mastery, really. Things like controlled change management, configuration management, requirements engineering, getting those requirements right, and disciplined IT project coordination, even if the projects are small.
That makes sense.
Look, if you can successfully push through a controlled system implementation in a highly regulated place where one slip up in an audit could cost millions.
Yeah, the stakes are high.
Exactly. Then you possess a kind of gold standard in process rigor. And the job market definitely sees the value in that. Our sources pointed out really strong demand, over 20,000 job postings for computer systems analysts, 36,000 for user support specialists, just in Texas alone.
Wow.
These aren't niche roles, they're high-demand entry points because they formalize that critical interface between what the business wants to do and what IT actually delivers.
Okay, so if someone in that role wants to intentionally break out of that feeling of stagnation, the key seems to be making a smart horizontal move, like diversifying their experience without necessarily jumping ship entirely.
That's a great way to put it.
So what are the most synergistic, immediate next steps suggested?
Well, the career docs and community feedback point to three pretty natural pivots, leveraging that documentation and coordination background they already have. First one is formalizing the coordination they're likely already doing by moving towards project manager, PM, or maybe project coordinator. The key difference here is shifting from just, pulling teams together as needed to actually owning the whole delivery lifecycle, the budget, the schedule, the scope.
So moving from just grabbing the DBA when needed to actually applying formal methods.
Precisely. They need exposure to and application of standard frameworks. Think Agile, Scrum, maybe PMBOK. If you can handle change control in a validated pharma environment, you're honestly halfway to mastering schedule and scope control for a standard IT project.
And all that meticulous documentation they're already doing.
Becomes the project manager's project plan, the risk log, the status reports. It maps directly.
Okay, that makes sense. What's the second pivot? You mentioned it's often seen as the most seamless.
Yeah, the business analyst BA role.
Okay.
It often looks very similar on the surface, especially the title business systems analyst.
Right. So what's the subtle but critical difference in the day-to-day focus, particularly in that regulated setting?
Well, the systems analyst often focuses more on the how. How will the system be configured to meet the requirement we've been given? The business analyst digs deeper into the why.
Okay.
Why does the business actually need this specific requirement? What's the underlying process? And often, what should the process look like? Not just documenting the way it is now. Making that official move to BA means really doubling down on stakeholder engagement, process modeling, and ensuring the tech requirements directly link to tangible business outcomes like better efficiency or lower regulatory risk. It's a definite step closer to the strategic decision-making table.
Got it. And the third path, you mentioned it's especially relevant in pharma or biotech because of all the data they generate.
Exactly. The pivot towards data analyst or business intelligence, BI. This is a really powerful move because it leverages the ultimate output of all those proprietary lab systems, the data itself. The analyst already knows where that data lives, how it's structured, its limitations. To make this move, though, they need to shift their focus from configuring the system to using the data that comes out of it.
So less about the proprietary tools, more about the data skills.
Right. Instead of worrying about listing every specific ETL tool they used once, the focus becomes the competency. They need to get comfortable with data visualization platforms. Think Power BI, Tableau, maybe Cognos. They need to understand the fundamentals of data integration and extraction tools, ETL concepts, and maybe get familiar with major cloud data environments like Azure or AWS, often alongside solid SQL Server skills. Understanding that whole information lifecycle from its controlled creation in the lab system to its strategic use and analysis, that's the critical step towards information management leadership.
Okay, so now let's shift gears and talk about that mid-career stage.
Yeah.
Maybe roughly 3 to 7 years in. This is often where you hit a kind of ceiling as purely an individual contributor.
Right, the focus has to change. It has to
Yeah.
dramatically shift, yeah. From just executing specific tasks to managing complexity, maybe leading teams or designing more comprehensive solutions.
And the job titles start reflecting that strategic shift, right? We see things like senior BA, delivery lead, IT product manager.
Exactly. But the trajectory that really signals, executive potential brewing is often the path towards solutions architect or maybe technology architect.
Ah, the architect path. How does the systems analyst background feed into that?
Well, that background in integration, cross-functional work, and detailed documentation, it pays off hugely here. Solutions architecture means moving away from deep expertise in just one system
Right.
and developing a much wider knowledge base. Across applications, security, network infrastructure, cloud environments, databases, the whole picture. It's about designing the blueprint for how everything fits together, securely, scalably, cost-effectively. It demands that structured, big-picture thinking.
Okay, and when we look at surveys of CIOs, what do they say is the real differentiator for success at this mid-level stage? Is it still just piling on more technical certifications.
Far from it, actually. I mean, keeping your technical skills current is sort of table stakes, it's assumed. But the real accelerators, they're heavily focused on leadership and business context.
Like what specifically?
Mid-level success, according to the data, really hinges on people management, deep business knowledge, and critically, decision-making. The technical foundation gets you there, but the ability to translate technical stuff into strategic business decisions, that's the accelerator.
And this is where communication becomes like gold, right?
Yeah.
That essential bilingual skill you mentioned earlier.
Absolutely essential.
Being able to explain a complex technical risk, say you've got an aging proprietary system that's becoming unstable, and translate that into a clear business risk like potential regulatory fines or costly operational downtime. That's what gets management's attention and unlocks promotions.
Exactly. Our sources highlighted this effective communication showing up as a requirement in something like 41% of tech job postings. That's over 65,000 jobs in key regions. It's precisely that skill, translating technical value into dollar value or maybe risk exposure.
Oh, and coupled with that.
Deep empathy for the end user. You absolutely need that. Whether you're designing the grand architecture or just improving a small process, you have to stay focused on how the technology actually impacts the people using it day to day, and ultimately the customer the business serves. It's this fusion, technical competence, business insight, and that user empathy that really signals readiness for the executive track.
Okay, so this naturally brings us to the idea of a strategic investment needed for this stage. We're talking advanced education. How does a dedicated program like a Master of Science in Information Systems, particularly one focused on business impact, maybe like the one offered at the Dr. Sampak College of Business at Tarleton State University, how does that act as a launchpad for this mid-career leap?
Well, the MSIS is almost purpose-built to solve that bilingual problem and provide intentional acceleration. Think about it. If you come in with a purely technical undergrad degree, the MSIS immediately layers on that essential business context that's often missing. You get courses in strategy, managerial economics, high-level project, and portfolio management.
And if you come from the other side, a non-tech background.
Then it formalizes the technical knowledge you need. Enterprise architecture concepts, data strategy, cybersecurity fundamentals, stuff that pure business courses might just skim over. It bridges the gap from both directions.
So it's not just a random collection of tech courses, it's really an intentional blend designed for leadership.
It's explicitly the strategy layer. It provides frameworks for analysis, for decision-making that honestly can take years and years to pick up just through job experience alone. And having that strategic view makes you a much more well-rounded and, crucially, a more strategic thinker right out of the gate. Someone who can actually lead teams and make compelling investment justifications.
And the credibility factor.
Oh, it's huge. A master's degree signals dedication, a commitment to the field. It definitely unlocks roles that explicitly prefer or even require graduate degrees. You see this a lot in federal government jobs or certain higher ed IT leadership positions. And frankly, it often accelerates those promotion timelines. It makes you more competitive for management track roles.
It also sounds like it helps tackle that constant challenge of staying current with methodologies that change so fast.
Absolutely. A modern MSIS curriculum like the one at Tarleton deliberately exposes students to critical contemporary approaches, Agile, Scrum, DevOps concepts. These might be completely missing from the day-to-day reality of someone stuck in, say, a highly regulated, waterfall-based environment like our pharma systems analysts.
Right.
Getting that exposure is vital, especially if you're aiming for roles in major tech hubs where agility is just expected. Plus, there's often a really nice synergy. The coursework frequently aligns directly with the knowledge needed for key professional certifications.
So interesting. Like what?
Well, you might be covering foundational knowledge that helps prepare you for the PMP in project management, or the CSMM for security leadership, or ITIL for service management. So you're essentially getting a study foundation built into your degree, maximizing your time investment and boosting your professional validation.
Okay, so when that mid-career professional decides, yes, I need to invest in an advanced degree, the big fork in the road almost always seems to be Master of Science in Information Systems or Information Management, the MSIS or MCM, versus the Master of Business Administration, the MBA.
That's the classic decision point.
Yeah, and our data backs this up. Remember, 66% of the CIOs surveyed held a master's. So the question isn't really if you should get one for the top jobs, but which one gives you the best strategic edge if you want to lead in tech.
It really is the defining choice for that management track. And while, both degrees can produce really strong leaders, you see graduates from both in consulting, data analytics, project management. Their fundamental focus, their core purpose, is distinct.
Okay, so let's break that down. Define the MBA's focus for us first.
Sure, the MBA is, well, it's the classic general management degree. Its primary goal is creating value across the entire business spectrum: finance, marketing, operations, HR, strategy. An MBA aims to train a versatile manager, someone capable of leading pretty much any function. The emphasis is often on optimization, general business scalability, maybe financial performance. It really prioritizes breadth across business functions over deep specialization in any single one.
Okay, so the MBA is the versatile generalist manager. How does the MSSM differ? What's its unique focus?
The MSMSIM is laser focused on strategic information leadership. It's specifically designed to develop highly skilled specialists who can drive competitive advantage, innovation, and productivity using people, process, and crucially, technology.
More specialized then.
It's intensely interdisciplinary, yes, but specialized in integrating IT management with core business strategy, with governance, and increasingly with ethics and the societal impact of data and technology. While an MBA might offer, say, an information systems concentration or a few tech electives, the MSIS dedicates the vast majority of its strategic coursework to solving organizational challenges through technology. It's about technology leadership, specifically, not general business management.
So for our systems analyst who's aiming for a CIO type role, the MSIS provides that deep dive and specialization in the very domain they intend to lead, whereas the MBA offers maybe broader career agility, potentially moving into non-IT sectors later.
That's generally the key distinction you see in career outcomes, yeah. MSIMSIS holders tend to gravitate towards and really excel in technology-centric leadership roles. Think technology consulting, enterprise architecture, cybersecurity leadership, technical product management, data science leadership. The MBA remains that universal management credential, certainly opening doors across all departments. But MBA grads often need more specific on-the-job learning or subsequent specialization to effectively lead really complex, large-scale IT organizations.
Okay, that distinction is clear. Now, to really grasp the MSIS's purpose, you mentioned we should look at the MSIS 2016 model. This isn't just a course list, right? It's an academic framework defining the competencies needed by future IT leaders. Can you synthesize the shift this model represents?
Yeah, this framework is important because it views the MSIS as a professional practice degree. It's built around what IT leaders actually need to be able to do. It consciously moves away from older models that might have just focused on teaching, say, advanced coding or database administration.
Right.
The model identifies three core realms. First, information systems competencies themselves, IT and IS management skills. Second, domain competencies, which is about applying IS effectively in specific sectors like healthcare, finance, government. And third, individual foundational competencies, those crucial soft skills, leadership qualities, communication abilities.
And within the IS competencies, the framework identified 9 specific areas. 3 of the newer ones seem particularly geared towards C-suite readiness, moving beyond just technical execution.
Yeah.
What are those strategic shifts?
They really reveal that the degree is designed with governance and strategy in mind. For instance, the explicit prioritization of enterprise architecture. This signals an expectation that graduates must be capable of thinking about and contributing to the design of the overall holistic technology structure of a significant organization. It's about structure, scalability, long-term vision.
Okay, that makes sense for a future leader. What's the second one?
Second, the emphasis on innovation, organizational change, and entrepreneurship. This means graduates aren't just being trained to maintain the status quo. They're expected to be agents of transformation, people who understand how to leverage technology not just for efficiency, but for genuine market disruption or creating new business models.
And the third one you highlighted, ethics, impacts, and sustainability.
Yeah.
That sounds very contemporary, very relevant to today's leadership challenges.
It absolutely is. And honestly, this might be the biggest differentiator between just being a technically capable manager and being a truly responsible leader in the 21st century. In an era dominated by concerns about data breaches, the implications of AI, algorithmic bias,
Yeah, it's everywhere.
the MSIS framework explicitly ensures that future leaders are equipped with a strong ethical compass and a deep understanding of the societal impacts of the technologies they deploy. This kind of coursework directly prepares graduates for the complex compliance, risk management, and ethical governance decisions that really separate competent leaders from merely capable technologists at that C-suite level. It proves the MSIS is designed for the boardroom, not just the server room.
That's a powerful point. The model also talks about 4 levels of attainment for these competencies. awareness, novice, supporting role, and independent contributor. How should someone listening think about these levels in terms of their own career journey?
Think of it as a clear progression of responsibility and capability. Awareness is basically just knowing the term exists, maybe what it generally means. Novice means you can perform some basic activities related to that competency, but you need pretty close supervision. The MSIS program, realistically, aims to get you solidly into the supporting role level across a breadth of these competencies. This means you can collaborate effectively on a major project team. You can contribute meaningfully to complex architectural discussions. You understand the strategic implications, even if you're not the single person signing off on the final independent enterprise design.
So it's about being a strong contributor on day one after graduating.
Exactly. And importantly, the framework is realistic. It acknowledges that no single master's program can possibly make you an independent contributor the highest level. Basically a recognized expert in every single one of these 9 complex areas. That deep expertise is achieved through years of focused professional practice after you graduate. The MSIS gives you that critical, structured foundation so you can start immediately contributing at that high supporting level and accelerate your path towards independence in your chosen specializations. Okay, so if the MSIS acts as that accelerator, let's look at the actual data. How did today's top CIOs really reach the summit? Understanding their educational backgrounds, their career paths. That's the ultimate roadmap, right?
Yeah, let's dig into that. Let's start with the education data again, because it really underscores that blend we've been talking about.
The pattern is remarkably consistent, actually. That technical grounding is absolutely essential. We saw 78% of the CIOs studied had technical first degrees, computer science, engineering, information systems.
It's like the foundation.
But, and this is the crucial part, 66% of these executives didn't stop there. They went on to get a master's degree. And that advanced degree, overwhelmingly business-centric, the MBA and the MCSM combined accounted for 64% of their final degrees.
Wow, so the message seems crystal clear.
It really is. The technical background gets your foot in the door, maybe gets you to mid-level, but that strategic, business-focused, advanced education is the key that unlocks the door to executive leadership.
Okay, now here's a point from the data that I found really challenges the conventional career wisdom. Many people believe you absolutely have to jump out of the IT function, go run a marketing team, or manage operations for a bit to prove you're a strategic business leader ready for the C-suite. What did the data actually show about that?
Yeah, that data point is where our sources deliver a really powerful counter-narrative. The vast majority of job changes for these future CIOs, over 70%, involved moving from one internal IT role to another internal IT role, just with increasing scope and responsibility.
Wait, hold on. Only internal IT to internal IT.
Over 70% of the moves, and get this, only 8% of their job changes involved moving between IT and non-IT roles.
But that really flies in the face of the advice we often hear, doesn't it?
Right.
That you have to get that P&L experience outside of IT to truly make it to the top. Are our sources suggesting that doing deep, strategically focused work within IT is actually the faster, more direct path now?
That's exactly what the data suggests. It implies the fastest path today is achieved by significantly broadening your strategic impact within the technology function itself. Think about it in the age of digital transformation. IT is the business strategy for many companies. You don't necessarily need to leave IT anymore to prove your strategic value. What you need to do is change how you talk about and manage IT. You need to focus it explicitly on driving revenue, creating competitive advantage, managing enterprise risk, enabling business agility. That average time to the CIO role dropping to around 21 years? It's likely because the sheer complexity and centrality of modern technology creates more opportunities for people to demonstrate that kind of strategic leadership early on without ever leaving the IT org chart.
Okay, that's a paradigm shift for a lot of people's career planning. So once you do arrive at that executive level, say CIO, what happens to the required skill set? We talked about the pivot needed at mid-career. What's the ultimate pivot for the C-suite?
It pivots almost entirely away from the day-to-day execution details and squarely towards vision, strategy, and governance. When CIOs were asked to rate the importance of various skills for their job, what came out on top?
Let me guess. Leadership. Strategy.
Exactly. Leadership, teamwork, strategic IS planning, and strategic business planning were rated as most important. Things like, say, application development skills or database design. They ranked lowest, less than 2% importance. The executive job becomes almost purely about leadership, aligning IT with the business, governing resources effectively, and setting long-term strategy.
And yet, wasn't there a finding that they report learning those crucial skills leadership and strategic planning, mostly through their experience as a CIO. That sounds, frankly, terrifying, like being thrown in the deep end.
It is often like that, yeah. And that's precisely why having that strategic framework provided by an advanced degree, like an MSIS, becomes so incredibly crucial beforehand. They often are promoted into the deep end, largely based on their technical credibility and demonstrated potential. That structured way of thinking about governance, about risk assessment, about investment justification, the frameworks they learned in their coursework that becomes their intellectual life raft as they navigate those first critical years.
Okay, that makes the value proposition very clear. Now, to make sure everyone's clear on the end goals here, can we briefly define the key differences between those top three tech leadership roles? CIO, CTO, CDO. They're often used interchangeably, but they're distinct, right?
Very distinct roles, yes.
Yeah. Let's start with the CIO, Chief Information Officer. Their focus is primarily internal. Their core mantra is something like maximize business productivity and overall value through the effective use of technology.
Okay.
They manage the entire IT budget. They have to balance operational stability, keeping the lights on, keeping systems secure with driving innovation, maybe through cloud migrations or adopting new digital tools. A huge part of their job is ensuring technology investments align perfectly with the board's overarching business strategy. And a major challenge is often managing technical debt from older systems while still pushing forward with transformation.
Got it.
Internal focus, business value, stability, plus innovation. What about the CTO, Chief Technology Officer?
The CTO often has a more external or product-focused lens. They're typically overseeing the technological strategies specifically for the company's customer-facing products and services.
Product side.
Yeah, they're leading R&D, evaluating potentially disruptive emerging technologies, think AI, quantum computing, blockchain, and making sure the company's product technology stack stays competitive in the market. They're often looking further out, maybe 3 to 5 years, really focused on technological innovation and potential market disruption through technology.
Okay, external product focus, innovation, future tech. And finally, the role that's become increasingly vital, the CDO, Chief Data Officer.
The CDO is all about the data, purely focused on data strategy, data governance, and often data monetization. They are ultimately responsible for the quality, the privacy, the compliance, and the ethical use of the organization's vast data assets.
So in that pharma example, they'd be ensuring the clinical trial data is managed properly, securely, and maybe used ethically for new insights.
Exactly. Their job is to turn data from being just a byproduct or even a potential liability into a core strategic asset for the business, usually through robust analytics and business intelligence initiatives.
Okay, those distinctions are helpful. It sounds incredibly high stakes at that level. How does an MSIS degree specifically help someone operate effectively at that C-suite strategic level?
Well, the curriculum itself often provides immediate executive context. You have strategic coursework classes specifically on digital transformation strategy, advanced data governance frameworks, strategic IT management. These often use powerful, realistic case studies, maybe simulating real executive crises like the ones detailed in books like The Adventures of an IT Leader. That kind of learning gives you the mental models and the confidence to start thinking like an executive right away.
Beyond the frameworks.
Beyond the frameworks, that ingrained focus on risk-aware governance and developing a strong ethical compass is absolutely non-negotiable for C-suite success and longevity today. Programs that really specialize in delivering this blend, like the Master of Science in Information Systems at Tarleton's Dr. Sam Pack College of Business, are explicitly designed to cultivate the kind of strategic vision that boards now demand from their IT leaders. Someone who can not only manage technology, but also drive digital revenue and effectively manage complex, enterprise-wide risk.
Okay, this entire deep dive really hammers home that career acceleration isn't just about luck or time. It's intentional, strategic. So let's boil this down. What specific practical steps should someone listening take today to start mastering this career path?
Yeah.
Whether they're currently a systems analyst or maybe a senior BA looking ahead.
Right, let's get concrete. The first and maybe most powerful action is deceptively simple. Audit your skills with precision. Do a real gap analysis. Literally print out job descriptions for the role you want, maybe 1 or even 2 levels above where you are now, say senior analyst or solutions architect, if that's the goal.
Okay.
Then, side by side, compare your current resume, your actual experience, against those requirements. Honestly assess, where are the gaps? If that architect role demands, say, specific cloud security certifications and proven enterprise analysis skills you don't have yet, that becomes your immediate investment priority. This kind of intentional analysis tells you if your next step should be a targeted certification, some specialized training, or maybe making that longer-term investment in an advanced degree like the MSIS.
Okay, audit the gaps. What's step 2? Sounds like breaking down barriers is key.
Absolutely. Step 2 is actively seek cross-functional opportunities. You have got to get out of your comfort zone, break down those internal silos. If you're in IT, volunteer. Put your hand up to be the I2 representative on a new project, being led by the business side. Maybe they're launching a new HR system, or you could assist with a supply chain optimization initiative.
And the value there is?
It's twofold, really. First, just doing it demonstrates proactivity. It signals leadership potential to senior managers outside your immediate chain of command. But second, and maybe more importantly, it forces you to practice that essential bilingual communication we talked about.
Right. Translating tech to business and back.
Exactly. Translating technical constraints into business impact and business needs into technical requirements. Organizations notice and reward people who can effectively connect the dots across different departments.
Makes sense. Step 3 ties back directly to that bilingual point and the MSIS advantage.
Yes. Step 3 is the critical mandate. Become truly bilingual. If you lean technical, you must master the language of business. You need to understand concepts like ROI, net present value, customer acquisition cost, and how the projects you work on actually impact the company's P&L statement.
And if you're coming from the business side.
Then you have to get comfortable with essential IT concepts. Understand the practical difference between cloud hosting and on-premise servers, what an API actually does, the fundamental principles of cybersecurity. This shared vocabulary is basically the common dialect spoken by modern executives.
Okay, those are 3 solid actions. Do you have any bonus tips? Maybe for increasing visibility?
Yeah, a couple of quick ones. First, stop just listing duties on your resume or during performance reviews. Instead, build a portfolio of achievements. Document every significant project you complete, but focus relentlessly on the result and the business value delivered.
Give me an example.
Okay, so instead of just writing manage proprietary system upgrade, reframe it as led critical system upgrade project, resulting in a 15% reduction in end user error rates and avoiding an estimated $50 in potential future technical debt. Quantify your impact whenever possible. Show the business value.
That's much more powerful.
Wow.
What's the second bonus tip?
Develop your leadership presence. You know, leadership is often recognized informally long before the official title is granted. So consciously focus on those softer aspects. How do you run meetings? Are they efficient, goal-oriented? Do you speak up strategically in important discussions, offering solutions, not just identifying problems? Work on developing the confidence and demeanor needed for that executive track. If public speaking or meeting facilitation is a weak spot, don't be afraid to invest in yourself. Join a group like Toastmasters. Take a leadership workshop. It can yield huge returns.
Good advice. And one final thing.
Yeah, the last one is just crucial given the pace of change. Stay hypercurrent. This field evolves faster than any university curriculum can possibly keep up with long term. You have to make continuous learning a non-negotiable personal ritual.
Now.
Regularly monitor key strategic publications, maybe CIO.com, Harvard Business Review, specific industry journals relevant to your domain. Attend local tech meetups, industry webinars, virtual conferences. This ensures your knowledge stays sharp, your network stays fresh, and you're constantly exposed to the latest thinking around things like digital transformation, AI governance, cybersecurity threats, all the things leaders need to be tracking. Hashtag Hag Outro.
Okay, so if we zoom way out now on this whole journey we've mapped, the path from that initial systems analyst role all the way up to C-suite leadership, it's fundamentally one of strategic evolution, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It really demands solid competence at that technical foundation level first. Then it transitions to needing skills in managing complexity and leading people effectively at mid-career. And finally, it culminates in needing that high-level strategic vision and strong governance capability at the executive level. The core message seems to be that the climb isn't just about putting in the years anymore. It's built by intentionally acquiring these specific strategic competencies.
That's the absolute key takeaway, I think. That timeline to the top has shrunk dramatically, precisely because the complexity and centrality of modern IT demands much faster, much deeper integration between business strategy and technology execution. That rapid drop in the average time to become CIO is being fueled by people demonstrating that strategic leadership and business alignment much earlier in their careers.
Right.
The talent who can truly connect those dots, The people who possess both a solid technical background and that strategic business acumen, that leadership potential, often nurtured through targeted, specialized programs like an MSIS. They are the ones being recognized and promoted much sooner. This intentional, strategic acquisition of skills, that's the new acceleration factor. It's what's turning careers from slow marathons into much faster, more strategic sprints.
Okay, so if the technical expertise basically gets your foot in the door,
Yeah.
secures your seat at the table, but it's really leadership ability and strategic planning skills that define the client at the top. Here's a final provocative thought for you, our listener,
Yeah.
to chew on.
Yeah.
What specific business case, one that justifies a crucial IT investment, not just in tech terms, but in clear, tangible ROI and dollar value to the business? What business case like that can you build today to demonstrate your immediate readiness for that next strategic leap in your own career?
Ooh, that's a good challenge. Really think about that business case you could build right now. And, for those of you listening who are genuinely motivated to take real ownership of your career trajectory, and you're looking to secure that blended strategic foundation that's necessary for this accelerated path we've been discussing, well, exploring a program specifically designed for this, like the Master of Science in Information Systems at the Dr. Sampak College of Business at Tarleton State University, could be a very strong investment. It's built to deliver exactly that potent blend of strategy, technology, and leadership preparation. So take ownership of your trajectory.
Great final thought. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.